Welcome to the raw and uncensored Ambitchious Podcast. During our time here together, I will be instilling all of the strength, power, and determination you will need to use the very stones thrown at you to build your ultimate empire. We will redefine the word bitch from the derogatory to the acronym being in total control of herself. So let's adjust our crowns and prepare to live life ambitiously. Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on our last episode of this season's Ambitchious Podcast, we have saved the best for last. And it is with my homegirl and my soul sister, Alex Vieira. Alex Vieira is a mom of two, and she has one on the way, and she is from North Carolina. And she has ADHD and has struggled her whole life with nervous system dysregulation. And more so, she states, after becoming a mom. She's an occupational therapist and has started in the recent years working with young children. And she noticed most parents were living in a state of chronic stress and not able to connect and be present with their children. So she started her business, The Confident Parent Coaching, and she coaches women using a holistic approach. She teaches women how to take control of their stress, regulate their nervous system, and use simple daily tools and help them prioritize their needs so they can thrive and not just survive. She offers one-on-one coaching, and she is going to be doing a monthly membership soon, all around her 12-week transformational program on regulating a dysregulated nervous system. And as you guys know, this season of the Ambitchious Podcast has been entitled The Healing Diaries, and it's been everything that I've been using over the years that I've really doubled down on to heal myself so that I can be the best, most ambitious version of Katie motherfucking Boyd. And one of the things that I have been doing is really working on regulating my nervous system. And I think that, you know, one thing that, well, she taught me a lot of things and we're going to get into it in a second. But one of the biggest things I think that women think is like nervous system regulation is all about like bubble baths and a glass of wine. It is so much deeper and more entailed than that. And I cannot wait for you guys to listen to this podcast. So without further ado, here is my incredible conversation with the amazing Alex Vieira. Alex, it is so exciting to have you on the Ambitchious Podcast today. And I am so pumped for not only my listeners, but selfishly myself to learn more about regulating my nervous system from someone as knowledgeable and educated as you. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, I'm ready to jump right into this because this is something that I have been working on intensely, but I think that you're going to just bring so much more knowledge and tools to the table. So the first thing that I want to do today, because not everyone understands nervous system dysregulation and just the different types of system states. So can you just like walk me and the listeners through the 3 nervous system states and kind of like what they do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to use really layman's terms because I would love to use the big terminology, but I don't want us to get lost.
Yes, understood.
Yeah. So we're about the 3 nervous system states, and this is based off the polyvagal theory. So we have primarily 3 states. The first one is regulation, or the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. Regulation this is what we want our baseline to be. And for most of us, it's not our baseline. So this is when we're present, we're focused, we're aligned, we're connected with ourselves and other people around us. And then there's fight or flight.
Oh, so I know that. I know that one well, Alex.
Oh, yeah. Most of us do that. For most of us, this is our baseline.
I was going to say, that's my homeostasis.
Yeah. So this is when it's hard to focus and relax. You feel irritable. You can feel like a machine, like you're just going and doing all the time. You can be in your head a lot. So you're overthinking and you're anxious. You're not really in your body and connected. You're not connected with people around you or your environment. And a lot of us get stuck here. So our nervous system likes predictability. So when you're in this state, it kind of wants to stay in this state. So we have to have those pockets of regulation, which we'll talk about later.
Alex, I feel attacked.
Sorry.
I feel attacked. I'm like, yep, checking off all the boxes. Now, let me ask you a question. Does this fight or flight response come from childhood trauma, complex post-traumatic stress? Like, where does it usually originate from? Or is there just so many different avenues that you can take you really can't pinpoint?
Yeah. So first, it could be genetic. So many of us who struggle with this nervous system dysregulation, a lot of us have a sensitive nervous system. So that is genetic, like, neurodivergent people, like I have ADHD, my parents do, my siblings do.
Right.
So it's genetic. And then of course, you add childhood trauma, because the first 7 years of life, that's what teaches your nervous system that you're safe in this world or not. And a lot of us did not feel safe as kids. So our nervous system has adapted to be hyper vigilant of our surroundings and people around us.
That's so me. That is literally, if you could like put me as the poster child for that energy, that is 100% me, because, I grew up in a very tumultuous household. I talk about it a lot on the podcast. We're actually having my mom and dad on the podcast this season, which is going to be freaking crazy because, we talked before we got on the podcast about how this season of the Ambitchious Podcast is called The Healing Diary. So that's why I wanted you on today, because this is a lot of the things that I've been doing, because people don't think about healing their nervous system. They're like, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to do cold plunging. I'm going to go to therapy, and all that is great. But I think that you really hit the root. And when you grow up in a tumultuous household, you're always kind of walking on eggshells, and you're also trying to be like, okay, is my mom happy today? Is my dad drinking today? Is this happening over here? Are they fighting? Are they not fighting? How do I need to be so that I keep myself small or safe? Yep. And then that goes into this nervous system dysregulation as an adult when you get stuck in that fight or flight loop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this makes a lot of sense. All right. Keep going. So fight or flight. And then the last one is, I also could do this one.
Yeah. Freeze mode. I call it functional freeze because a lot are functioning while we're in freeze mode. So we're kind of just going through the motions on autopilot. We may feel like kind of dissociated, like I'm a robot. I'm doing all the things I need to. And the second you lay down, you hit a wall, like your nervous system it just tanks, and you're like, I can't do anything. You feel overwhelmed a lot. Like you look at a to-do list and you just can't.
Is it also like when you want to bed rot instead of being social with your friends on the weekend or doing something fun, you're like, I'd rather just sit in my bed and watch Netflix and scroll endlessly on social media?
Yes, because you're kind of dissociating. Your nervous system wants to keep doing that.
And can you have both? Can you be like a fight or flight and be a functional freeze person? Or is it like you're usually more susceptible to one way?
So what's crazy about this is our autonomic nervous system, which basically means automatic.
Mm-hmm.
The part of our nervous system that keeps us alive, our organs are working. So we cannot choose what state we go into. Our nervous system does that for us, which isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I always thought you had and maybe this is my dingling-ishness, but I was like, okay, I'm choosing right now to be bed rotting. I'm choosing right now to be in this heightened state of I have to do all the things. I got to keep everybody happy, and I got to be a people pleaser, and I got to be safe. But really, you're saying that the brain just does this. And is it part of the system in your brain that's kind of almost primordial, old?
Yes. Yeah. So the autonomic nervous system is in the base of the brain.
Yes.
The lizard brain.
Yep.
I love this analogy. So, your prefrontal cortex,
yes.
That's our part of our brain, the top of our brain. That's where higher levels of functioning, executive functioning happen. This is where, regulation connection is. When you are in fight or flight or freeze mode, your smart brain turns off. Survival mode on, smart brain off.
Wow.
Yes.
I have chills just thinking about it. I don't know why that makes me feel that way, but it's almost like It's not in your control. And Alex, I'm all about radical responsibility, so we can't be radically responsible for this. Yippee, hooray.
We can in some ways, and we're going to get to that. Like, you can prep your nervous system. You can have habits that keep your nervous system regulated, but we're like, life is going to freaking happen. And like,
absolutely.
For us and for most listeners, we have lived in a fight or flight dysregulated state for a long time. So this is like learning a new language, trying to get back to regulation, because it is our responsibility first to realize we are dysregulated, and second to tell our nervous system, hey, you're safe. Let's get back to regulation. So that's what we can control. Sometimes we can't control what state we go into, right? Because life, like I was telling you, I live in Western North Carolina, and we just had a catastrophic hurricane come through, and we are in survival mode. And you know what? It's okay because it's temporary.
Right.
And you could be going through a divorce. You could be moving. You could have a third kid. Like, your nervous system's going to go into survival mode sometimes because it's new. The nervous system doesn't like change. So it's going to feel threatened, and it's going to go into that state. But it's our job to recognize when we're dysregulated, and it's our job to go back to regulation using tools.
It's so interesting. That gives me hope. I'll give you a little story, because this is like making my brain kind of like think of different things. So my husband was away for work for about almost a week, and I love my husband. We have a great relationship, but every so often it is nice to kind of just like be alone and be in your autonomous, like sovereign energy, and kind of like, if you want to have a girl dinner, have a girl dinner. You don't want to do the thing. You can just like sit and watch Netflix all day. But I notice every time that he goes away, I go on this like almost manic energy where I like clean everything and rip everything apart and like purge and organize. And I will do this for like 16, 17 hours a day when he's not home. Like, I will not answer the phone. I will not go out of the house. I will just like get into this weird, deeply entrenched, like energetic, like whirlpool. And then like last night he came home, and I woke up this morning and that energy was totally gone. So maybe, because I'm like, why do I always do this when he goes away? But you kind of just answered my question, because it's like, you just said the nervous system doesn't like change. So when even something as small as your spouse not being around anymore for a certain amount of days, your whole energetic system shifts into like this overdrive thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, he's probably your safe person, your safe place. So
oh yeah, totally.
Safety in your environment kind of goes away, and you're like, oh gosh.
Wow, that's so interesting, because I'm like, why do I always do this? It's such a weird, because he's always like, damn, like, was the house dirty, Katie? And I was like, no, my house is always clean, but there's just something about him not being there where I go into this like spiral. It's the weird, I've always done this my whole entire life, because I just linked something. This is like a therapy session, Alex. I just linked something else up, because when I was a little kid and my parents would like fight, or my dad was coming home, drunk or whatever, I would always rip my whole entire room apart and like rearrange the furniture and like clean and like organize everything, because I think it gave me some semblance of like control, but it's not even real control, especially when you're a little kid. Your brain doesn't even function that way. And maybe this is like the correlation between the two.
Yeah, because something changed in your environment that you could not control. So you're like, what can you control? And I know so many women who are just always cleaning, like obsessively. Like, I work with a lot of moms who are like those moms who like a sock gets on the floor.
Yes.
They have to clean. I'm like, because their environment feels so unsafe. I mean, if you have a house full of screaming kids, that's going to make you feel overstimulated, unsafe. But what can you control? Oh, well, you can clean the house all the time. And right, your nervous system is stuck in that I'm running, I'm trying to get away. I'm cleaning. It gets stuck there, and that's all it wants to do. So
instead of running from the saber-toothed tiger like we would, thousands and thousands of years ago, because we're still working with that reptilian part of our brain, now the saber-toothed tiger is no longer the threat, but now the threat is the sock on the floor, the screaming children, the, missed appointment, the whatever the spiral is of the day.
Yeah. So that gets me into, so we went through the nervous system states.
Yes.
So I like using the word stress, because we are all very familiar with that word.
Oh, yes.
So
definitely.
Stress is what happens to your body when it gets dysregulated, when it gets out of regulation. Okay. So you have stress, but you have stressors. So yeah, we don't have tigers chasing us, but most of us have chronic stressors that never end. And that
Mm.
day hustle, the work, the kids, the cleaning, the cooking, those stressors never end. So they're causing us stress, like you said. And that's what's going to get us into the stress cycle, because chronic stressors don't actually complete the stress cycle. They keep us stuck in it.
Ooh, this is so good. This is so good. Okay, keep going. Keep going. I love it.
Okay, so I'm gonna use like the tiger analogy because it'll make it click in your brain. Okay,
Totally.
say you're hiking through the woods and you're by yourself, it's beautiful, and then like you hear something behind you, so your nervous system automatically goes into survival mode, like holy crap, and then you look and there's a tiger staring at you. Okay,
Not good.
yes, and you're right, this happens in a millisecond. This happens way before your brain kicks on. Okay, your nervous system in a millisecond can detect a threat.
Wow.
So there's a threat, you go into fight, fright, or freeze. You don't have control over this, what your nervous system's going to do. So you're about to try to survive. This bear is about to charge you, and then the bear disappears. Okay.
Mm.
So what do you think's going to happen to your nervous system? It's not going to be like, oh, cool, it's gone, let's keep hiking.
No.
Like, oh, let's go have a drink. Like, let's chill. Like, no, your nervous system is like, where the hell is that tiger or bear? Like,
yes.
And it's on edge, and it's waiting, and it's scanning the environment because it knows the tiger is there somewhere.
Oof.
So that is what our chronic stressors are.
Wow.
They don't complete the stress cycle.
So you're just constantly being presented with this stimuli.
Yes.
But it never closes the loop.
It never closes the loop. So those are called chronic stressors.
Mm-hmm. What are some chronic stress that you see? Like, we're talking to mostly women here on the podcast from all over the world. And I don't care where you live in what country, mostly all women from the ages of 25 to 65 have very similar constant daily stressors. So what do you think off the top of your head, are some ones that keep you in that loop that we face every day?
Mm-hmm. So if we could just not be in a very safe environment, maybe we're not in a healthy relationship. We have a very sensitive nervous system. So constant touches and noises and clutter it's just too much, and our sensory cup's always overflowing. So
yes.
that's most parents with young children are just in survival mode, because your nervous system is programmed to keep other people alive. So
yes.
You're more hypervigilant. So young parents, women who work all the time, maybe you're in an unhealthy relationship or environment, you always have the cleaning and the cooking. And a lot of this is psychological, because we know it doesn't end, and we're always thinking about all the things we have to do.
Yes.
So those are the chronic stressors. So, right, that's sometimes these stressors are out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to find what's in our control and find ways to complete the stress cycle.
That's why people go postal, Alex, because you people that work in the post office. That's why they call it going postal, is the letters never end. The mail never ends. The delivery never ends. So people lose their minds. And it's the same thing with being a mom, because every day for the next 100 years, I'm going to have to cook the food, do the laundry, clean the thing, do all that. And my to-do list never ends. And I keep being one day my to-do list will get whittled down. And it's the day you die.
It won't. There's always clothes to clean. There's always stuff to pick up. There's always meals to cook. It does.
It's it's part of our lives, right? That's how but doesn't it sometimes just get you so frustrated? You're just why does it have to be this way?
Yeah, it really is. And that's when you're okay, I need to be productive, but I also need to rest.
Yes.
I'm in fight or flight right now. I can't think straight. Let me rest, because I've noticed in my life, and a lot of women, we are most productive after our most productive rest.
You're so true. It's so true. So true.
So the list is not going to end, right? So just go freaking rest. Meet one of your needs. So you feel better. Because
Yes.
it's not going to end. There's always something to do.
But don't we always say as women, like, I can't go out with my friend for coffee because I have 10 loads of laundry and my daughter needs me to go get poster board for a freaking science project and I have to go pick this thing up at UPS and I have to do this errand and go. It's like we always make, I know for myself personally, and I can only speak to what I do. I will say no to the fun thing or the restful thing because I'm just like, I can't do that because if I do that, then it puts me one more day behind. And then, and it's like, you just hit the nail on the head. Like, dude, it's always going to be there. Who gives a shit if it's a day later or a week later?
Yes. And that's what fight or flight does. It wants you to keep going and doing. Like I work with moms and they're like, God, I try to sit and play with my kids and look them in the eyeballs, but I can't. All I do is the freaking dishes. And like, all I do is look around me, like finding peace. You have to find peace in the chaos because the chaos won't end.
So right. It's so hard to do though when you're in that fight or flight loop, right? It's like one of the most difficult things. But you give tools though that will help this, and I think that that's the biggest thing. Is like we can talk about all this stuff, and I love it, and it's freaking right in my wheelhouse. But I think the thing is like someone like you who's like, dude, these are the tangible tools that every day you can start practicing these things. So it pulls you out little by little from that nervous system dysregulation.
Yes. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to, right, these chronic stressors don't complete the cycle.
Right.
So I want to remind us that there are stressors in life that do complete the cycle. Like you have a deadline and then you meet the deadline, your nervous system's like, woo, okay, that's over. You know, you're holding your 2-year-old's hand and they run into a parking lot. Like, that's like, oh my God, you know, like, you grab them and you're like, oh, thank God we're alive. You know, like those things complete the cycle. So there's those little acute stressors, right? But it's really the chronic stressors that are causing us stress. So, right, we may not always have control over the chronic stressors, but we can control the stress that's happening to us. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard this statistic. It freaks me out, but they say 80% of hospitalizations are due to stress.
Dude, I believe it though. I believe it.
Yes.
Because think of every sickness, illness, and disease, almost 100%, unless it's like a genetic thing, which I also think is caused from stress from like your generational, you know, like whoever your mother was, your grandmother, if they were going through stress when they were, you know, pregnant with you, that also in turn bathes the baby in those stress hormones. And then the baby, I mean, I'm not a you know, an expert in this field, but I've listened and I've learned enough to know like generational things like this, stressors are also like a real thing. So you're getting it from like your environment, you're getting it from your physical relationships like that you have in the 3-dimensional reality. And then before you even come here on this earth, right, you're in the womb, you're already getting programmed and encoded with these stress responses. So sometimes babies probably are born with like just higher cortisol levels and higher stress hormone levels. I'm sure if they actually did studies on it.
Oh yeah. Like so, you know, I'm a occupational therapist and I worked in pediatrics for years. And just like a mom who was using drugs or was not safe during her pregnancy, that baby is born so dysregulated. And those are the little babies that I do therapy on. These are the babies that get a diagnosis. And even if they're safe for the first, I work with kids who, you know, they were maybe taken away from their mom like week 2 or 3 of life. Well, those first 2 weeks of life, their little nervous system learned that they weren't safe, and that impacts them.
And then they get, and I know we're not going to talk about this today. I'm actually going to do a podcast about this going forward, but like the attachment styles.
Yes.
And then how you become like dysregulated in your attachment styles, which I think is so interesting as well, because it all connects to what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's why this healing work is so important. Like it runs so deep. When we do this healing work, we're like healing our nervous system past, you know, the people before us, our children, because it's in our genes and we can change our genetics. We know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we have to know how, and we have to want to.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the power, right? They always say like knowledge is power, but I actually say, no, it's potential power, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't do the thing to shift it, it's not powerful whatsoever.
Exactly. You have to, you can listen to all the podcasts and read all the books, but if you don't take action, nothing is going to change.
And isn't that like 90% of the human population? They're going to listen to this podcast. They're going to be like, oh my God, Alex, the bomb. She's so smart. She gave me life. And then they're never going to do the thing that you told them to do, which is going to change the trajectory of who they are as humans.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people, and I know this is harsh, but it's like, it's so easy to be great in this day and age because most people just don't give a fuck and they don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
They want to like, I call it like mental and energetic masturbation. They want to listen to, like what you said, all the podcasts. They want to listen to YouTube. They want to read all the self-help books, but they never want to take those tools and actually use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people like us who are actually learning and really trying to implement the tools are going to go so much further than just, listening to the thing.
Yep. Yeah. And we're the minority. We're the minority who's trying to get the majority to be like, open your eyes.
Yes. I know. It's such a hard thing. I wouldn't give it up for the world, and I know you wouldn't either. But some days you're just like, dude, all you got to do is just listen to the couple of steps that Alex gave you and just shut your fucking pie hole and do the damn thing,
5 minutes a day. That's it. Start with 5 minutes.
See, I love that too, because a lot of people are like these all or nothing people where they're like, if I can't do all the things and heal myself in a small amount of time, what's even the point? But what you're saying is like, literally, it could just be 5 minutes a day of these tools, and just start with those things and plant those seeds. And then, as you know, it becomes a habit, and then it becomes actually part of your day. And then it becomes like a thing that you look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah. I love this.
Yeah, like we said, nervous system doesn't like change. So why the hell are you going to go from doing nothing to like working out an hour and a half every day and meal prepping and like most of us are 0 or 100. We want to feel and see results immediately, but your nervous system is going to kick back. It's going to be like, I don't like this. Dave, how many people do you know like go so big, so hard with goals, and most of them never, ever continue that goal. Like,
everybody. I mean, I do a program on my app called A28P, which is a 28-day transformational program. And every month, let's just say 20 people do it. Only one of them get to the end.
Wow.
So it's like a 98% is not doing the thing. And I think that is actually across the board, not only within ourselves, but in the collective of the world. I think it's 90% of the human population is going to do the mental masturbation, and only 2% is going to do the execution.
Yeah, I agree.
Sad, but it's true. And hopefully people like us will make that percentage much bigger. Fingers crossed, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like I have a coaching program, and a lot of women, they mean well, but I'm like, you have to be consistent,
Yes.
Gentle, it's transformational. We're not going big and hard and crazy, but you have to be consistent. A lot of women are not. So
healing happens in layers, as you know, right? Like I know from my own self, like every time I've done anything to deepen my healing journey, I like just get over that hump and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so good. And then all of a sudden it's like whack-a-mole. The next thing comes up and it's like, hey, remember me from 1977? I'm still here. And you're like, fuck.
The healing is like, it's like peeling onions, know? Like you peel a layer and you're like, yay. And then you go right back.
So true, man. So, all right, all that chronic stress stuff makes total sense to me. And I know that all my listeners are shaking their heads right now and going, yes, I feel it. Can you talk about just meeting our basic needs to, like you said, complete that cycle, which is going to then in turn help combat that dysregulation and get us out of that stress whirlpool, really?
Yes. Yeah. So it starts with building awareness. Like you have to know that you're dysregulated. Like you and I were just saying, we were just freaking machines. You're like, I have a body. Like I'm just going. Like if we just learn to just sit for 2 minutes and be like, wow, like my shoulders and my neck are so tight. Like,
Same.
right. The stressors are going to manifest physically, emotionally, and mentally. You're like, God, why am I so freaking anxious? Like this past week, what the heck is wrong with me? Well, your anxiety is a symptom of the dysregulation. That's good awareness. I've been feeling anxious. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about emotions? A lot of times the stress builds and you have a big emotion, someone upset you, and you're either suppressing it or like you're just sitting with it and festering with it.
Oh yeah, I'm a ruminator and I'm
Yes.
a perseverator, and I am like an overthinker to the point where it's like I will drive myself absolutely insane. And then from there, I don't know if this is a nervous system dysregulation thing, but I get like super resentful of people who want to infringe on my, autonomous sovereign life and my freedom. Like if someone, tries to like take time from me or waste my time, I get like so angry. But then I'm like, dude, you're the one that told them that you would do this with them. And now you want to beat the shit out of the person because you're doing the thing that you told them that you would do.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. I mean, that could definitely be something from the past that you gotta heal,
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of the stuff is deep. It's deep. you know.
Oh,
We
yeah,
push
absolutely. And it's
it.
never from the place where you think it's from.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. And
Ever.
emotional regulation is huge. Like that is something that no one ever talks about because right, you suppress emotions, it continues to dysregulate you. So it's either you suppress it and you're like, I'm not even gonna sit with that feeling. I'm just gonna stay busy. Like if
Yes.
you get bored and you're like, oh, I'm feeling feelings. This
Oh,
ain't
yeah.
start scrolling.
Absolutely.
Or you sit with it. I do the same thing and I just get so down on myself and like these feelings are all consuming. So emotional regulation is this dance between allowing yourself to feel but not becoming attached.
Right. And I have a kind of off question for you, but this just popped in my mind. So like we know the chronic stresses of everyday life, right? Like the laundry's piled up to the ceiling, the kids are crying, one of the kids is cutting their hair off with scissors from a drawer, the other one's writing on the wall, your husband comes home and like, you just wash the floor and he tracks mud through the whole house. Like all these like everyday things that we as women deal with. But is there anything like smaller and like kind of under the radar or pervasive that can also dysregulate your nervous system? And I'll give you an example. One of the things that I notice is if I'm on social, let's just say like I'm like, okay, I did great. I had a great day today, and I'm just going to sit on the couch with a glass of wine or a cup of tea, and I'm just going to scroll on TikTok or I'm going to scroll on Instagram, and I'm just going to like watch puppy videos. Let's just say that's what you do, right? Then all of a sudden the puppy videos start turning into like, and this is just my own personal experience, the puppy videos start turning into like dogs getting tortured and like this animal fell off a cliff and like this person is, trying to get a penguin out of a net and all this shit. And I'm just like, oh my God. And it's almost like I can't stop watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get off the phone and I'm like nihilistic and I'm like, what's the point of life? This world is trash. And then I just feel so shitty. And then I try to go to bed and I just lay in bed all night with my eyes like blinking, staring at the ceiling.
Yeah.
Are these like also things that will dysregulate your nervous system on like a smaller level? Because this is kind of like the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, well, what we consume is so important. And like that's what you're putting like, yeah, that would be a stressor. Like watching those things and when Hurricane Helene came, I was like addicted to Facebook. I'm like,
Oh my God, me too.
I need to see what this looks like. And I would just scroll,
Yes.
and my brain was on that. And yeah, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for a while. And like our brains are so sensitive. Like
Yes.
I always tell women, don't look at your phone right when you wake up and like an hour before bed.
You're so right. And I've been slipping. Those are bad habits of mine. I've been slipping because I feel, and this is also something that is so nuanced, but I'll just say it to you because, we're deep thinkers and we're crazy like that. But I was thinking the other day, like how the energy right now with, all the disasters we have going on in our country, we live in the United States. So the hurricanes that have been happening, the flooding, just the horrible, horrible stuff that we've been experiencing here. Then top that off with a presidential election year, which gets crazier and crazier every 4 years. And then all the things that are going on overseas. I was saying to you before we started recording today, I was watching just like you on Facebook and on Instagram because I have so many friends that live down south in Florida and North Carolina. And I felt so helpless and I would literally cry. And Matt, my husband would be like, Katie, you can't help them by crying and being upset. And you also can't uproot your life and go, start a caravan and bring people stuff because you have all your people to worry about here that you have to service and serve and help. And just that feeling of like being so like overwhelmed, it feels almost like 2020 pandemic energy where you're like, okay, God gave us the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? Remember that time where we were all baking banana bread and watching the Tiger King and things like seemed kind of fun for a second? And you're like, this will blow over. And then all of a sudden, like 4 years later, we're like, what the fuck just happened? I'm living in dog years. And I feel like it's the same energy right now coming through, maybe not with obviously a pandemic, but that same energy of like, what's the point of trying hard right now? What's the point of showing up a certain way? Because it could all be taken away from us with a hurricane or some kind of crazy thing that happens with the elections. Or, I mean, let's be real. I mean, I try to stay disconnected as much as possible, but you kind of can't in this day and age where it's like nuclear war.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a pandemic, but it could be a nuclear war. And then I'm like, Katie, stop thinking about this. This is so stupid. Like, you just focus on your shit. Do you feel that right now? Like, have you felt that? And does it kind of correlate with how you felt during the pandemic as well? Because I'm feeling that same kind of like absurd, even like, what's the point of trying energy? And I oscillate between being like an overachiever, like you are, right? Trying to do all the things and help all the people and do my social media and do my podcast and whatever. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I'm like, let's just drink bourbon and eat Doritos and fuck it.
Yeah.
Am I making any sense whatsoever, Alex?
Yeah. So many of us, I think it's us sensitive people and empaths that are feeling this.
Yes.
My mom was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, like women are like, I'm just feeling off. It's the energy.
Yes.
It feels like that. There's been a lot of weird stuff happening in space. Like,
yes.
Like all these solar storms,
yes,
and lights and the hurricanes. Like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, if the planets and all that can affect the ocean, we are energy. It's affecting us.
Dude, absolutely. I tell this to people all the time that kind of look at me like, shush your mouth. And I'm just, or people will come into my studio and I know my clients so well. And I'll have a client come in and they'll just be down and I'll be like, what's going on? You're not yourself today. And she'll be like, what's going on with the planets, man? Like, is something in retrograde? I just feel crazy. And I'm like, no, it's not just about the planets. It's literally about the collective consciousness, the collective unconsciousness, the energetic vibrational frequency of everyone in the world in a fear panic state, and then throw in the solar flares and crazy weather. And I mean, people in my town in New Hampshire, in Windham, New Hampshire, they're like, oh, the northern lights and the comet. And I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christmas. Is this like Armageddon or what?
Yeah, it freaks me out. Like, they're like, this is the first time in 100 years we've been at northern lights twice. I'm like, that doesn't freak you out?
It freaks me the way the fuck out, dude. And I love having this conversation with you because, first of all, I love when I can resonate with people and I'm like, yes, I'm not a crazy bitch. Other people think like me, but there's so many of the listeners out there that think the same way, but they don't have anyone to talk to. That's why this community is so important, to have these like-minded conversations and not just be like, oh, how about those Red Sox? Like, no one cares.
No.
Like, I want to have deep conversation because that's what feels fulfilling to me. But oh my God, girl, I'm on the same page. So you think that those types of things too will also and have been dysregulating our nervous system probably for the last 4 years at least.
Yeah, because that is so freaking out of our control. All of it is like the elections and the storms, and it's so out of our control, and our environment's not safe. It's like there's tigers out there everywhere.
Yeah. My husband said the other day, he goes, well, it's Sunday. Donald Trump might get his head like shot off. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, every time that there's been like an attempted assassination, it's always been on like a Sunday. So it's the weirdest thing. He said that to me and I was like, shut up. And then like every Sunday now, my butthole is like puckering. I'm like, what's bad's going to happen today? I'm like, Katie, what do you do? You're getting yourself into another whole loop of crazy. But it's almost like you can't help it. And think about it too, Alex. You and I are very awakened. We work on ourselves constantly, right? Every day we're trying to be better people. And we feel like crazy town. Can you imagine what the other population of this world feels like every day?
Yeah.
So if we feel like we get it bad and we have tools and we have support systems, think about all these people that don't have those things.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just running around with a chicken with their head.
You ain't kidding, girl. Absolutely. So I love this whole situation where you said, okay, first we have to kind of be aware. We have to pinpoint the big feelings that we're feeling. And then kind of, if you could put it in a nutshell, like we have to also say, all right, I'm feeling this way. I got to pluck myself out of the hypnotic rhythm whirlpool that I'm feeling of keeping myself in that chronic stress loop by doing kind of, I mean, what I'm getting out of it is like almost doing the opposite of what you would normally do when you felt that way. So like you were saying, okay, when you're feeling dysregulated, instead of like going on a freaking home edit Marie Kondo, the life-changing magic of tidying up or whatever the hell the book is, instead of going down that rabbit hole, maybe sit on the couch and do some breath work or meditate or go for a walk in nature or just like do something. Because I don't know about you, but I will just let myself stay in the loop because that's what feels, even though I know it's wrong, that's what feels comfortable to me.
Yeah, well, your nervous system's in that right now, and it kind of wants more of that. Like we were talking about, it kind of just gets stuck. Like it wants to, like, you're like, okay, I have to sit, I have to like connect, and like it just wants to keep going because that's like what it's on.
Right.
So you have to do the things, and this is where discipline. Ooh, ew, we don't like that word. A lot of discipline and habits are not sexy words.
Nope.
But it's discipline and habits that are going to get you out of the stress cycle and are going to get you out of burnout.
All right. I love this. Okay. Tell me more. Tell me all the ways that I'm going to get myself out of this because mama don't like it no more.
Okay. So yeah, if we're in fight or flight or freeze mode, we have to get back to regulation. We have to complete the stress cycle. Okay. First, you got to know, like, dude, I'm stressed. Like first of all, you have to slow down enough to know, like, I'm feeling stressed out. Like, don't go on your phone every free second you have. Okay?
Because that's just a distraction.
Yes. And it's keeping you dysregulated. Like sit there and be like, physically, I'm feeling tension. Emotionally, I got some big feelings and I don't know with them. Mentally, my anxiety is out the roof. Okay. I'm dysregulated. So what can I do now? I need to get back to regulation and complete the cycle and tell my nervous system, the tiger's gone. We're all good.
Wow.
So the first thing, and I have 5 points to help us get back to regulation. The first thing is movement, intentional movement, because what movement does is it actually like runs from the tiger or fights the tiger and ends the cycle. Okay. So that could be a 10-minute walk. That could be a hard, heavy workout. It could be a yoga flow with intention. That movement is telling your body, like, I am moving the stress out of my body and I'm running from the stressor. And like everybody who works out knows, you feel like $1,000,000 after you work out.
Absolutely. But you don't want to work out. You're like, I don't want to do this. This sucks because it's almost like your body is trying to self-sabotage because you're like, we got to stay in this fight or flight because if you go work out, that'll end it and that will be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it wants to stay in what's familiar right now. So movement is number one. And you can schedule in a good heavy workout, but like a lot of times we don't have 30 or 45 minutes right now. You can go for a 5-minute walk. You can do a yoga flow. You can get into your body, connect with your body. Because a lot of times we can work out and do all these things, but we're not actually connected to our body. We're still like up in our head and thinking about the tigers.
Yeah.
Movement is the number one thing. It's the most regulating thing you can do. And anytime you add resistance, so like a power walk, lifting weights, like holding resistance yoga poses, it not only regulates your nervous system in the moment, but it can keep your nervous system regulated for hours and into the next day.
Wow. That is so powerful.
It really is. And like a good heavy workout, like when I go and play soccer, like adult league soccer, like I can't walk the next day.
Yeah.
Like $1,000,000 for at least 2 days.
Yes. You're so right. I notice though, sometimes when I go to work out, especially if I work out in my own studio, I'll be like working out and I will not even be in my body. Like I'll be like, oh, I need to clean that floor over there. Oh, I should throw the towels in the laundry. Like I'm so not there. I'm just going through the motions of the actual exercises. But that's such a great reminder to be like, when you're working out, you're working out.
Yes.
You're not on the phone. You're not like in between sets checking your phone, checking your emails. You're there and with intentionality. That's such a great reminder. Because I mean, I've been a coach, in this space for 25 years, and still sometimes I slip out of that intentionality of my movement. So that's a great freaking reminder.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about the body. The nervous system regulation is all about connecting with the body because we're so disconnected from it. So intense
Mm-hmm.
movement, like you're like, what's 5 minute walk gonna do? Trust me, it's gonna help.
Oh,
Right?
you're right. You're so right.
Yeah, and if you could do it daily, like every morning, I'm gonna go for a 5 minute walk, or I'm gonna just do some yoga poses with breathing. Like people are like, no, I'm not gonna feel. Yes, you will notice it. It's the tiny little habits. Yeah, and in a week or two, you'll notice you feel better. But yeah, it really just starts with like 5 minutes of intentional movement, getting
And
back
you
in the body.
and when you're doing 5 minutes, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel good. I'm going to go for 10. I'm going to go for 15 and just compounds. But I think it's such a great little mini goal to say, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes,
Mhm.
and that is powerful.
Yes. And what these what these 5 points that we're going over is doing is it's okay, so when you're running from a tiger, think of things you wouldn't do. You wouldn't sit there and take deep breaths. You wouldn't sit there and do yoga poses intentionally. Like anything you're all these things we're doing are things we do when we're regulated. So they get us back to regulation. So think of things you would never do if you're running from a freaking tiger and do those.
That's so freaking. I know you're like, oh, the tiger's chasing me. Let me check my email. Like, no, let me go on Instagram and check my DMs. Like, no, you're going to get your feet moving. You're going to get haul ass out of there.
Yes. So movement is number one, breathing and mindfulness. Everyone hears, oh, just take a deep breath. Well, let me tell you why you need to take deep breaths, okay?
I love this.
This is going to click. So we talked about how our nervous system shifting in different states is automatic and we can't control it, right? We can't really control our breathing. We're breathing all the time. But we actually can control our breathing. And when we have controlled breathing, that's the bridge to the autonomic nervous system.
Yes.
You take those deep breaths and long, slow exhales, you are slowing down your heart rate and you are your nervous system. I'm safe because you're not taking deep breaths when you're running from a tiger.
No.
So it's our into the autonomic nervous system, deep breathing. And it's just a simple, like 2 deep breaths in and the long, slow exhale. And doing 3 or 4 times, you're going to feel so different.
Oh, 100%. I do breath work every day, all different types of breath work. But I have noticed that, well, I did some research on it too because I'm a nerd and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this breath and I'm going to work with these coaches on breath work. But I also want to know like the scientific reasoning, like how you're teaching it right now. And they say that it's best to breathe only through your nose when you're stressed out because when you breathe through your mouth, it actually triggers a part of the nervous system that says, I'm in fight or flight. Because usually when you're like running, like say you're running from that tiger, all of a sudden your breath gets so changed and then you're like almost like that hyperventilation through your mouth. And that will trigger an even deeper nervous system dysregulation response when you're breathing through your mouth in times of stress. Is that true? I don't even know.
Yeah, because when we're in fight or flight or just going through the day, we're breathing from our chest and it's very low.
Yeah. And we do it. I think we do it more than not.
Yes. I mean, most of the time when I sit here and take deep breaths, I get so lightheaded. Like I feel high. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good stuff. What is this stuff?
Get high on your own supply, Alex.
That's why, I tell women 2 minutes a day, just sit there in your car and breathe for 2 minutes.
You're so right. And people think like, I have to do 72 minutes of Wim Hof breathing and then I have to jump in a cold plunge. And it's like, sometimes that is more dysregulating for the nervous system because it's the stress of having to check those things off your box and it taking 2 hours of your day instead of just being like, bro, before you go into your shitty job in that cubicle office, sit in your car 2 minutes, just take some nice deep breaths in through your nose, out through your nose, and you'll feel so much better.
Yes. Yeah. You're getting back to regulation. Yeah, for sure. So that's number 2, breathing. Number 3 is deep connection. So this is a deep connection with yourself, with other people, or with nature, right? You're going and doing, you're not really connected to anything, right?
So true.
Yeah. So a deep connection with yourself is sitting with yourself and breathing and checking in with yourself, or a safe person making eye contact and a long hug. Make sure it's a safe person, and
Right.
and like really just open up to them and connect. Connecting with nature, connecting with a pet, just going outside and really trying to get present using your senses. So connection is huge.
I
And
love that.
when you're running from a tiger, when we're dysregulated, it's really hard to connect, right? Like you have all the best intentions to, but it can be hard. So, right, being intentional about it, like this is going to be good for me and the other person, like that co-regulation,
Yes, yes. I love this because it's so simple just to be like, I'll say to Matt sometimes, I'm like, can I have a hug? Because I'm not a touchy-feely person. And he's like, oh no, she wants a hug. What's happening? And I'm just like, sometimes I just need to feel that, like you said, that connection to another person.
Uh-huh.
And then the energetic field of those two people coming together probably does something, like I said, energetically to each one of us. I think hugs are good for both people, like you said, if it's a safe person.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of research around the 20-second hug. So make sure it's 20 seconds and he like squeezes you really deep because that deep pressure is really calming too.
It's like a weighted blanket.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So fun. I love this because these are all such easy, tangible things that people can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's free.
Yes, it's free.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You had movement, breathing, deep connection. Number 4 is creative expression or just experiencing joy. When was the last time you did something that you love just because you love to do it? Like
Not much.
a lot of women, a lot of moms are like, oh, I used to listen to rap music and go do all this. I don't do that anymore. I don't have that I love. And when you're experiencing joy and doing something you love, just do it for the hell of it, not because there's an outcome. Because when you're experiencing joy and you're expressing yourself creatively, you are so present. You are so present in the moment and you're experiencing that flow.
God, you're so right.
Katie, what do you enjoy doing?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I was going to say cleaning. I'm a robot, Alex. I'm a robot. What do I really love doing? I love gardening. I'm obsessed with gardening and I like the science of gardening, like different like soil testing. I know it's so nerdy, but I love to garden and I love to watch the thing that I nurtured for like months on end like grow, and then I can actually eat it and like it tastes better than anything you've ever had at the grocery store in your life, right? I love that. I love gardening like flowers too, not just the food gardening, but I love making my land really beautiful. One of the things I wanted so much growing up is like I wanted like magical land that you can go out and it like heals you just being around the flowers and the nature and all that. So I love that. I like crafty little things like doing like little flower arrangements or making like little wreaths and stuff with like hot glue gun energy, like from Michael's Crafts. I love stuff like that, but I don't do it as much as I should because I'm like, what's the point? It doesn't make me money. It's not helping people. It's not serving, but you kind of reminded me like, no, that is serving you deeper than all these other things because you're doing it just for the fuck of it instead of like, there always has to be a reason at the end.
Yes. Yeah, do it because, right, God gives us these desires for a reason. Like some people really like random things and they're embarrassed by it. It's like, you love to do that. There's a reason why God gave you this desire. Do it. There does an outcome. Schedule it in. Like make some cute wreaths like every week,
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I love like, I got into like canning and like making pickles and stuff this summer because I had like a ton of green beans and a ton of cucumbers. I'm like, how hard can it be to make a pickle? And I started like doing all these different pickle recipes. And like my stepdaughter, Karina, was like, I gave her a jar of my pickles. She goes, dude, you could like sell these in the store. And I was like, I just want to make the motherfucking pickles. Like, I don't want to sell anything in the store, like, because my household and my husband and my relationship and my stepdaughter, we're like very business minded.
Yeah.
So everything always goes to like, you should sell this. You should do. I'm like, I don't want to sell it. I just want to do it. And it's that craving of like being, because it reminds me of my childhood when I was a little girl. My mom put me in like flower. My mom was the president of the garden club in our town, which is so random. my mom is a really good gardener and she loves all that kind of stuff too. So she put me in like wreath making and flower arrangement classes when I was a little kid. And I always had that love for it. But then, as you get older, as you know, you have kids, you have responsibilities, all those things that you used to love to do when you were a kid, it kind of goes out the window.
Yeah.
And then you feel so disconnected to that. That's another thing too. And I know that this is not what we're talking about, but it also has a lot to do with that inner child healing work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it all kind of comes together and all makes sense. The nervous system dysregulation, the wounded inner child, not doing these joyful things. That I try to do that every day. I was actually talking about that on my live on my Ambitchious app today, how, I have a lot of obviously responsibility as you do with my business and my family and work and all these different things. And what I've been trying to do lately is make my day half work. So like, really money producing, service producing actions, but then sprinkling in these like little breaks and like little pockets of joy throughout the day. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last couple of weeks. And it's been helping me immensely because I know how dysregulated my nervous system is and has been. And I think I just started doing these things intuitively. But now you as the expert saying, hey, it's really important every day to have this creative expression and these little pockets of joy. I'm like, okay, this is so, I was following the breadcrumbs energetically without even knowing that I was doing this the right thing.
Yes. Yeah. Because, we are career driven women. We need to help people. We need to do all the things all the time.
Yeah.
We have to schedule it in because we work. And you're like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling regulated. I'm just going to push through.
Yep.
No, I say force rest. Force it. Force yourself to go out. Like, you're like, oh, I just want to keep working. Like, but just know, like, connect with yourself. And when I go a few days, work, I start to hit a wall.
Me too.
Prevent it. We can prevent the dysregulation by doing these things habitually.
I love this.
Never get burnt out again. And that's why habits are so freaking important.
It's so funny too, because I deal with burnout like every 3 months. I've noticed, as you get older, you start to notice your patterns more and more and more. And I've noticed that if I don't schedule in like a little mini vacation where like Matt and I will just go into Boston for the weekend and just rent a nice hotel room and just go on food crawls and have some cocktails and get a massage. Like I try to do that every couple months because it gives me these like little mini breaks, because I think sometimes people think I'm going to take the whole summer off because I'm so burnt out and I'm just going to go and backpack through Europe. And it's like, that's escapism.
Yeah.
Where if you just schedule in these like little things, because hey, every 3 months I get wicked burnt out. I get depressed. I get anxious. I get overwhelmed. And then I get resentful. Like, why everyone just wants a fucking piece of me all the goddamn time. Like no one ever just texts me and says, how are you feeling today, Katie? Like this is like what goes on in my head, right? Like I'm always the one that's like, and I'm sure you probably get like this too, because when you're a coach, you are coaching people and people aren't coaching you unless you have your own coach, which I think is very important as well. But I go through those cycles and I've noticed like, Katie, you don't have to allow yourself to get like this every 3 months. If you just schedule like these little things to look forward to, it takes the edge off because you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, which is probably, to your point, closing a loop.
Yes.
My God, this is genius.
You have great awareness, Katie. Now it's about taking action. You know? Like, what can you do to prevent? And it's some trial and error. Like maybe once a month you do like a little thing, and then once a week or twice a week, we're going to talk about scheduling in mini sessions of regulation, like 2 minutes here and there, 30 minutes here and there, and then scheduling in bigger, longer sessions of completing the cycle.
I love that. So the last one, though, I don't want you to skip on this because this is so important, is number 5. What is it?
Quality sleep.
Oh my God, what is that?
Sleep? Huh?
What is that? Especially you with babies and being pregnant right now. Like you ain't getting no quality sleep, I'm sure.
No, not really. But like I can, I'm making up for it in other ways. But quality sleep, right? We all know how we feel when we wake up in the morning after we haven't slept. Like you wake up in a stress cycle. You are in the stress cycle when you don't get quality sleep.
You ain't kidding.
Completes the cycle. It restores the nervous system. Sometimes you just might need to lay down for 10 minutes and take a nap. Like Quality sleep is so important. And I tell all women, they're like, oh, I don't need to sleep. I can do 5 or 6 hours. I'm like, yes.
Dude, it's so true. Like my husband, he could just take a nap in the middle of the day and not feel bad about it whatsoever. And sometimes like I'll stand over the bed while he's sleeping and I want to just stab him because I'm like, there's so much to do. Like, how can you just lay in bed and take a nap for an hour? You're fucking pussy ass. Like, this is how I. And then I'm like, I probably need a nap. That's why I feel this way. Because I was taught like resting is not productive. Like when I was a little girl, I remember because my mom was a clean freak, probably because her nervous system was dysregulated too from her childhood and whatever. And I remember, and you know, I'm Portuguese, right? So you get it, where it's like Saturdays is cleaning day. Yeah. And I remember when I was growing up, it was, you know, I'm like, I'm a little kid. I want to watch Pee-wee's Playhouse. I want to watch Saturday morning cartoons. And I remember sitting there with my bowl of cereal and my mom would be like, I hope you don't get too comfortable because you got to clean all these things. And I'm like, and then I think that kind of got programmed in my mind where it's like, you know, sitting is being lazy. Yeah. Resting and taking a nap is being a pussy. Mm-hmm. And then you get so, I know you probably can align with this too, is you get so in your masculine energy.
Yes.
That you just are like a dude, like just grow a penis and just call it a day and like move on. And I felt like I've been in that masculine energy for so long. Where one of the things that I'm working on too is being more in my feminine energy, which is really hard when you're a hypervigilant maniac.
It is because it's masculine energy that keeps you alive. You know, it's
that's so true.
The feminine that we feel safe and supported to actually like. My nervous system doesn't like laying down and napping. It feels so unsafe, but like yes. I know I have to do it. You know,
so true.
Yesterday I caffeinated instead of napped. Like I admit it, like I had to do homeschool and I had to do all this. And my body was screaming. I mean, I'm 30 weeks pregnant. I should like mandate napping, but you know,
I think that's good. I think that's a great idea, actually.
I think I'm going to start because like I was exhausted. Just like I could feel it physically. I'm like, I need physical rest right now.
Yeah, totally.
Push through it. So that was me not listening to my body and connecting with myself. I'm like, I'm going to drink some mate and keep going.
And then, you know, when you do that, it creates a whole other loop of bullshit.
Yes. Yeah.
So true. But I love the quality sleep thing because people are like, sleeping's for pussies. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm like, no. Because you're going to be dead sooner, honey, because sleeping not only regulates the nervous system, but that's when you clean your brain. Uh-huh. There's a direct correlation with women and early onset Alzheimer's and dementia with having poor sleep schedules their whole entire life because they never have a chance for their brain to actually go into that cleaning cycle of cleaning out all the shit that, you know, all the senescent cells and all the junk protein and all the things that are kind of, you know, breaking down. Our synapses are getting loose and whatever. The only time that we can restore is during that really great restorative REM sleep.
Yes. Yeah.
So true.
Quality sleep so important. And like rest, like, you know, I have the 6 basic needs. All of these that we just went over, the 5, they are our basic needs.
Totally.
Plus rest. There's different types of rest. Like yesterday, I desperately needed physical rest. Sometimes you need mental rest and spiritual rest.
Yeah. You know, well, as you as a coach, do you ever get like, I just can't talk anymore today?
Yeah.
Like I get sick of my own voice. And like I'll come home at night and Matt will be like, how was your day? And blah, blah, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like I can't talk anymore. Like I can't do it. Like sometimes my throat will actually hurt because I speak so much. And listen, I am not bitching about what I do because I love what I do and I'm sure you do too. But there's just days where you're like, bro, I can't say one more sentence. I'm gonna explode.
Yeah.
So sometimes like I'll take like like a day where I'm just like, I'm not talking today. I'm not answering phone calls. I'm not scheduling sessions. I am just going to be as quiet as I can be. And that makes me feel so restored. And then like the next day I can show up for my clients in the best possible way.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great way to rest, you know?
Yeah. Especially for people like us who are talking constantly.
And we're working against, like, you know, I come from, you know, my mom's family is from Cuba, and I come from these strong women who never stopped, you know.
Mm-hmm. You and I have such a specific background as being Latina and having that, like, because those women, they don't fuck around.
They don't stop either.
No, they won't. Like, I remember my grandmother cooking, like, Thanksgiving dinner, and she would feed everybody and clean and cook. And I never saw her eat.
Yeah. Or sit down.
No, never. It's so true. And that is so highly ingrained in us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Cause we're just like, well, that's what our grandmothers did. And that's what our mothers did. And so, like, that's the way life is. And it's like, nah, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, I think this is the hardest thing because it's just society too. Like I know, when I'm resting and the house is a mess and my husband comes home, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get up and do something.
Oh my God. Yes. What the frig, man?
Why?
Because is he gonna like not love you, and is he gonna divorce you because one day you had to sit on the couch and not do all the things? Like, no.
It's totally me.
Yeah, it's our own. We are our own little worst enemies, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah. We have to know that rest, like right now, I'm feeling dysregulated. Rest is the most productive thing I can do.
Yeah.
Completing the cycle is one of the most productive things I can do. So you're on your to-do list, you're trying to get stuff done and you're struggling. Like, I'm just going to take a break and I'm going to move, or I'm going to breathe, or do something that brings me joy. And then in 30 minutes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to feel restored and I'm going to be more productive.
You're so right.
That's something we have to kind of reprogram into our heads.
Totally. Yeah, resting is not for pussies. It's actually for smart bitches. That's my new slogan.
I love it.
So how can people take action? Because I know you were talking about these little mini sessions, which I think is so genius. So I would love for you to share that wisdom with my ambitious listeners from all over the globe.
Yeah. So we talked about, the 5 ways to complete the cycle and meet our needs. So you want to schedule in, because it's all about completing the cycle and preventing the stress from building and building and building, because that chronic stress builds and the body is like, I can't maintain this anymore. And then you hit the wall and you burn out. So
yes,
to prevent it, you want to schedule in mini sessions daily. Like, what can I do for 5 minutes today? And do it in a time of the day where, like, maybe things get busy, or it's after lunch, midday, just to kind of prevent that going. So schedule in 5 minutes. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do some breathing. I'm going to, if it's not too overstimulated, just call and connect with somebody, whatever is right to you. So schedule in the mini sessions, and then schedule in larger sessions of big sessions, like completing the cycle. So at least 1 or 2 times a week. So for me, this looks like on Friday nights, my husband, he'll go out and hang out with his friends, which I'm happy for. I put the kids to bed early and I do some amazing yoga session, and I connect with myself, and I light candles. I take a bath.
I love this.
I journal. It's the best. It hits, I get the physical rest, the mental, the emotional, whatever emotions I've been holding on to, I release. That is my big weekly thing that I do. And then a hard, heavy 1 or 2, really heavy. I'm super pregnant now, so I can't work out hard, but 2 great workouts a week, because for me, that's what I need to complete the cycle.
Yes.
So schedule in the bigger ones and then schedule in the mini ones. And this is how you prevent the chronic stress from building. And these little things get you into regulation. So your nervous system's like, regulation is starting to feel safe. Maybe we'll hang out here a little longer. Maybe this will become our baseline, because the longer we're in a regulated state, the more our nervous system, right, that habit loop's going to be like, this is really good. I want to come back here. I want to stay here. And when we can maintain that regulation for longer periods of time, that's when our life freaking changes. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's when we start feeling aligned and connected. And, we start changing things around us to support our nervous system. If I told you my story, I've been working full time, in a clinic, forever. I've always worked full time, but I quit my job in March, and I would have never done that if I was in a regulated state. I would have been like, who the hell does she think she is? She's going to quit her job and stay home with her kids and start a business? And
how dare she?
What the hell is wrong with her?
Yep.
That 2 years ago, I would have thought you're crazy, but it's because I've been in this regulated state, focusing on my regulation, and I can change my environment to support my nervous system. And I'm just so in alignment right now. I haven't been experiencing that burnout that I usually did. So that's why this work is so important. So important.
I love that you had the bravery and the courage to do that, because I have so many clients, because I do a lot of business coaching for women in the service industry. And so many of them have these amazing ideas to start these incredible world-changing businesses. But they're like, but I can't quit my 40-hour-a-week job that I've been at since, the Reagan administration, because I'm going to let my family down and I can't do this and I can't do that. And I was like, yeah, but this job is the crux of all of your health issues, your mental health issues, your physical issues. Like, this job is killing you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the Dalai Lama once said the strangest thing about man is he trades his health, his whole first part of his life, for money, only to have to trade his money for health at the latter part of his life. And I just think it's so interesting how people know that something makes them dysregulated, sick, overwhelmed, resentful, stressed out, but they'll still do it because they don't think that they have any options. But you're a true testament to say, yo, I knew I wasn't feeling my best, and I knew that this was the only way to shift that narrative. And you did. And you said you've never felt better ever.
Yeah. And
so there is light at the end of the tunnel for people.
Yeah. And I've been doing this regulation work for years. And like, that was not an easy decision. I cried a lot. My husband's like, you're crazy. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
But I feel so good. Like, I'm like spending time with my kids. Like, they were in daycare all day, every day. Like, even when I went down to working 3 days a week, I'm like, okay, this is going to fix the problem. I'm not overworking, like, blah, blah, blah. It still did not feel good. And burnout is a sign that something major needs to change.
Absolutely.
Like, let me take a look at my life and see what has to happen, So I took that as like signs. Like, I was just, what burnout feels like.
Yeah, I do.
Bone tired. Like, I can't get off the couch. What the hell is going on? And
you know what burnout is for me? And I don't know if you resonate with this, but it's all I'm a workhorse, right? Like, my physical body, I'm like a motherfucking Budweiser Clydesdale. Like, I can pull the goddamn kegs of beer on that wagon all damn day, every day. It's my soul that feels exhausted. It's like my essence of my being is what's tired. It's like my soul is like, dude, come on. This is not in alignment with who you're trying to be. What the hell? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a robot, man. This is like, I was born for this shit. And it's like, dude, I'm not the Terminator. I'm not a robot. I'm not like a animal that pulls heavy things. I'm a human being. I'm not a human doing. And I had that epiphany probably in about 2016 when I left the pageant industry over, being in it involved for decades and decades, traveling all over the world, having a television show, just like being pulled in 1,000 different directions. And it was like my physical body could handle it. And even to a point, my mental energy could handle it, but it was literally eating my soul. It was like whittling my soul down to a nub.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women can really resonate with that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not living in alignment. So prioritize your regulation and connect with yourself, and life starts to happen. Things become very clear to you.
You said it. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I just wish that more people, especially the women that are my listeners out there, would have the wherewithal to be like, I know that this is scary and I know that this is hard to change my life, but if I don't, what is the long-term repercussions of this way that I'm living and showing up every day?
Yes. Yeah. And life starts with a regulated nervous. It'll start after you've been doing this work.
Yeah, I love this. Speaking of that, how do people work with you and how can they connect with you? Because I'm going to get 1,000 emails that are going to be like, that woman just changed my life. How do I work with her?
So I'm the confident parent, instead of spaces, it's period. So the confident parent on Instagram and Facebook, and just type in Alex Vieira, the confident parent, and you can message me there and on Facebook. And I do one-on-one coaching. So as an occupational therapist, if you've never worked with an OT, like, I hired a coach, she was an OT. So we don't just work with the person, we work with the environment. So we want to adapt your environment so you can become successful too. So, and that's a big deal, So I do one-on-one coaching. I have a 12-week transformational program, and I'm opening up like a community, kind of like an app, so women can connect and have that support.
Yeah, having an app honestly has been life-changing for me and my community, and I think that's awesome for all coaches out there, because you unfortunately don't have 1,000 hours a day to coach all these people. And having that one-on-one, it's your structure of your business is exactly like mine. Like I'll have the 20 clients that I coach in a business mentorship container or one-on-one coaching. And that's the bandwidth of my life for the month. I can't take on any more than that. And then I have that one-to-many model where we're building a community and I'm being able to like show up live and make courses. And I know that these people can pick it up and put it down whenever they want instead of me being on them in that one-on-one capacity. I think that's so smart and I'm so excited. And also, ladies listening, if you want to work with Alex, all her information will be wherever you consume the podcast. So it will be in the show notes with all her links and all her information. So if you didn't take notes during the podcast, you didn't get her information, just scroll down to wherever you're consuming this podcast and you can click on those links and it will bring you right to Alex. This is so good, Alex. This is amazing. Do you have any like parting words of wisdom before we wrap up today for the ladies out there in Ambitchious land?
So just stop staying busy all the time. Get bored. Like spend 2 minutes and just like get bored. And
do you remember when we were bored when we were kids? Like we were bored and then we would create the most fun games and do the craziest shit when we were bored because we were like, we had to kind of figure it out on our own. When was the last time you were really bored?
Yeah. Like we fill every minute with something. So put your phone in a different room so you can't see it and just get bored. Sit outside and look at the freaking leaves. Like just connect with yourself. These little moments of being bored and not doing are teaching your nervous system you're safe. And start connecting with yourself. Like sit there and be like, I have a body. How's it feeling?
Yeah.
What's my brain doing right now? Like, do I have any emotions coming up? And just getting bored for 2 minutes is hella uncomfortable.
Oh, big time.
Lean into it. Get bored, connect, and just lean into the discomfort, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself.
I agree. Oh my God, Alex, this was such an amazing podcast. And I know that you've inspired and empowered so many women out there. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to be here because I know that you have a lot of stuff going on and I just appreciate you so, so much. And I learned so much today and I'm ready to be inspired. And instead of being inspired all day in a psychopathic way, I'm going to sit with myself. I'm going to listen to you.
Do it.
Oh my God, Alex, you're the best. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, if you got so much out of this podcast like I did, please share it with all your friends, all your dysregulated friends out there, because there's plenty of them. And please share this. And in the meantime, don't forget to stay ambitious. And I will see you next Tuesday.